Says the Scots seem so hate-filled, it's hilarious. Miranda in Middlesex. I'm embarrassed to be born in Scotland. I consider myself British. The Scots love and respect the Queen and the family as much as everyone else who are royalists. Nicola is an embarrassment to us all, in my view. Dean in Gerrards Cross, what are you going to say, Dean? Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Nick. Yeah, Scotland had their chance to vote,
yes,
and they voted to stay in. And I'm just wondering if how we would vote if we want to keep Scotland in.
I'd hope we'd vote to keep them in the United Kingdom, wouldn't we?
Yeah, I love the Union Jack, and I'm very proud of it. But I'm also very
Union Standard, not the Union Jack. That's the fucking pole.
Do we want to keep Scotland?
No, I hear what you're saying. I remember that was very much a theme of conversation all those years ago when we had the devolution vote. Dean, thank you. Graham says, I live on the borders, he means with Scotland. I love being part of the UK. I'm proud of the Union. I'm astonished at your caller who's staunch SNP. All they've achieved is stirring hatred of anything British. It's embarrassing. When they go on, they must have more money to the United Kingdom. Okay, be totally independent. Then they must change to the euro currency so they can have the independence they crave. Let's go to Scotland. Stuart in Edinburgh. What do you say, Stuart?
Good morning, Nick.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, first time caller. All wobbly here.
Great to have you on. How long have you been listening, sir?
About the best part of a year now.
Oh, what radio station were you listening to a year and a day ago?
Radio 2.
Great to have you across. That's a good
And I have to say, at 9:30 is between you and Ken Bruce. It's a difficult choice.
Well, Ken is an absolute legend and master, so I'm not surprised. Is Nicola Sturgeon, was she speaking to the Scots the way she behaved yesterday?
She was speaking to her audience.
Right.
She wasn't speaking to the UK, she was speaking to her audience. I don't think,
Is it a growing audience?
Most SNP people are probably Republicans.
Stuart, is it a growing audience, sir? Are more people...
Sorry, Nick.
That's right.
Yeah.
Do you? My question was: do you think she has a growing audience? Are more people signing up to the SNP or not? What's the reality from where you're looking, Stuart?
I think everybody says back. Everything that's going on here, the education, but her day job is independence.
Yeah.
It's not the things that people really want her to look after. Independence. That's what she is in politics for.
You're absolutely right, sir. Thank you for your kind words about the show. Do stay with me, stay with LBC through the course of the morning. Hopefully we'll speak again. First time, first class. Enjoyed our conversation. Coming up, though, the music means we must move on. Coming up, it is, of course, Vaccine Day. Health Secretary Matt Hancock speaking with me earlier.
It's quite an emotional day. It's so important that we got to this point. I just wish that we could wave a magic wand and this would all be done, but it's not.
As big as the Bible, but after 7 decades...
IKEA, the wonderful everyday.
The IKEA catalogue, IKEA, will stop. Plus... Well, as well as that catalogue stopping, for a lot of people it was the day the world of music stopped. 40 years ago, John Lennon murdered in New York. But what sort of person would he be now? Still a rebel? Or would he somehow have become more mainstream? An appreciation later in the hour. News is next.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 9 o'clock, the NHS has started its mass COVID-19 vaccination programme using the Pfizer-BioNTech jab. A grandmother from Northern Ireland was the first person in the world to be given the injection. Following its approval, thousands more people will be immunised across the UK today. And 91 next week says it's the best early birthday present.
I'd say go for it. Go for it because it's free. And it's the best thing that's ever happened at the moment, so please go for it. If I can do it, well, so can you.
Doses will be administered to high-risk groups at around 70 hospital hubs today, described by the Health Secretary as the day. Matt Hancock says it marks a turning point in the pandemic.
It's quite an emotional day. It's so important that we got to this point. I just wish that we could wave a magic wand and this would all be done, but it's not. There's still months to go. We've got to hold our reserve.
Doctors' surgeries have been told to prepare to start staffing GP-led vaccination centres from next week. Boris Johnson is due to hold last-ditch Brexit talks in Brussels this week. The Prime Minister and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen agreed to meet after a lengthy call to take stock of trade negotiations. Sources say no further progress has been made. Labour's Shadow Cabinet Office Minister is Rachel Reeves.
I still hope that there is time to get a deal and to get that ratified by the end of the year, because the consequences for businesses from automotive to farming are just absolutely catastrophic if the government fails to get a deal.
Millwall players will link arms instead of taking the knee before their next championship fixture later. The team and tonight's opponents, QPR, say it will be a show of solidarity for football's fight against discrimination. Some Millwall fans booed players when they took the knee before their home match on Saturday. Britain's grocery market saw its best ever month of sales in November. Figures show shoppers spent nearly £11 billion in store and online. The number of visits to shops hit its highest level since the start of the pandemic. In the city a short time ago, the FTSE 100 was down 11 at 65.44. The pound buys $1.33 and €1.10. And the weather, the fog slow to clear this morning, then rain across Scotland, leading south over Northern Ireland, Northern England and Wales. Showers and Thomas Watts.
Telephone detector down. 1 minute you might be called by a lady from Luton looking for a lighting shop. Next it might be a gent from Jarrow who jumped to one.
More
Charge.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Ferrari at breakfast.
Well, it's 3 minutes after 9, Tuesday, December the 8th. The jab begins, the vaccination programme rolled out, and the United Kingdom at the front here will be charting the progress and asking, is it the decisive turning point that the government and other health officials tell us? In other news, perhaps slightly lighter, farewell to the IKEA catalogue. More than 7 decades will take your success and horror stories about IKEA. They always lift the heart, don't they, a bit? Probably needs lifting. It was 40 years ago. I appreciate many of you weren't even born, but if you were, it might make the course think, well, 40 years ago, John Lennon was murdered in New York. What sort of were he still with us? Would he still be rebellious? We'll try and appreciate the sort of man, and of course star and musician John Lennon would have been. And in London, on the verge possibly of going into Tier 3, Sadiq Khan spent nearly £250,000 of taxpayers' money on review of statues.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Nick Ferrari at breakfast on LBC.
It begins. We are world beaters. The first injection going to 90-year-old Margaret Keenan at University Hospital in Coventry. This is what happened. And subsequently I picked up on that when I spoke in the first hour with Health Secretary Matt Hancock. How did he feel? This was his reaction.
It's quite an emotional day.
Yeah,
it's quite an emotional day because
almost were close to tears because you've had it. You'll have lost people.
Yeah.
You fought with your colleagues with your sleeves rolled up. There will almost be a tear in your eye, I imagine, Secretary of State.
Yeah, there is because it's so important that we got to this point, and I'm so proud of having been able to get here this fast. You know, the team who've done this have done a magnificent job. And then the NHS being there, ready to roll out, ready to go. But the other thing, you know, it's mixed emotions though, Nick, because I just wish that we could wave a magic wand and this would all be done, but it's not. There's still months to go, and we've got to hold our reserve. And actually, you know, the thing I worry about is that people see these wonderful pictures of the news of Margaret and then William Shakespeare. Absolutely fantastic, the second person to be vaccinated, and think, okay, this is done, and it's not done, and we've got to hold our resolve, otherwise more people sadly will die.
Obviously sounding
He got
all
vaccinated
there,
in his fucking name.
But let's just pause and celebrate. It's been an incredible success by the scientists, and you have to say, of course, all the people who are getting those vaccinations down to the relevant hospitals. Right. Now, what about making sure that, of course, everybody gets, the necessary people get that, and we don't have a mass exodus, everybody going to the pubs, the supermarkets, the shops, whatever it might be. To Andrew Hardy, who's Professor and Chief Executive Officer of University Hospitals, Coventry and Warwickshire NHS Trust, where the first vaccination, we played this to you a couple of times. Well, congratulations to you and all your colleagues, Professor. Tell us about the long, hard work that starts now, though. Good morning.
Good morning, Nick, and thank you very much for the
Not
call.
at all. Thank you for coming on. You're a busy man.
It's a fabulous day for the NHS and, well, a fabulous day for the world, isn't it, that we can now start to fight back. Yeah, it's going to be a long haul. As the Secretary I've just heard that piece that the Secretary of State said,
Yes.
This is the beginning of the end. We're not underestimating the challenge that we've got as an NHS and as a society, and we do need to, keep sticking to the guidelines, but we'll get there. It'll take us a while, but it's absolutely, we know we can get to the end now.
Can you talk us through how you and your colleagues are administering it, how people are contacted and then make themselves available to come to your hospitals?
Yeah, absolutely, of course. So as many people know, the sort of top three priority people at the moment are care home staff and residents, those over 80 in society, and then NHS staff. In terms of those who are over 80, we are firstly looking at people who are existing inpatient in hospital, and indeed Margaret Keaton is an inpatient. Also, all those over 80 who are coming to hospital this week for an outpatient.
Oh, I'm just seeing video as you talk, Professor. I'm just seeing video of your colleagues. Oh my goodness, this is so moving. I assume, being applauded back to her ward, is she, by your colleagues? That's phenomenal.
Indeed, yeah.
Oh,
I've just got to say, Margaret Keaton is an amazing lady. I was fortunate to be able to talk to her just after she had vaccination this morning.
Is she 90?
She's so positive. She's 91 next week.
She looks incredible.
Absolutely, I can believe it. She's actually, as I was talking to her, she was working until she was 87 years old.
Oh my God.
She's a man. Absolutely.
What did she do? What line was she in, Professor? Do you know?
Yes, she works in a jewellery shop.
Right, okay, brilliant. Sorry, you're coming back to the how you determine who gets it and when. Yeah, sorry.
So we're working with both our local authorities here in Coventry, City Council, Warwickshire County Council, and they are helping coordinate, bring it on care home staff, and we've done our first care home staff vaccinations this morning already.
Right.
They continue throughout the day. In terms of then their GP practice will contact them, and as I say, from next week hopefully we'll be able to roll out vaccinations to GP practice to be nearer home. And then in terms of care staff, we're starting off with those who are most, and then we'll be most exposed to the virus by the nature of the, so for example, critical care, emergency department, those kind of people.
Well, the very best of that. Lastly, while I have the benefit on the line, on the negative side of this, how full are you currently with COVID patients, and how concerned are you? You effectively got to play catch up, haven't you? You know, there's great news going out. It's like one hand and the other. It's great news on one side, but sadly on the other one, you've got real issues as you go into winter, Professor.
Yeah, of course. We're still here to deal with all those normal winter pressures. And important, as you say, there is a catch-up because I had to stop down a lot of our planned elective surgery during the first wave of the pandemic, and we're really keeping on top of that. In terms of how many beds do we have here currently occupied by COVID patients, that's just over 90. I think it's important to say that that's the highest we've had in the phase 2 of this, but actually it's only half of what we saw in the first peak. So we haven't had anywhere near the challenge in Coventry that we did have in the first phase.
Good luck to you and all your colleagues. Very proud day for you, of course, and the teams. Professor Andrew Hardy, your Chief Executive Officer of the University Hospitals, Coventry and Warwickshire NHS Trust, where that woman, of course, got the first shot. We have another professor to talk about medical ethics from the University of Oxford. I wonder if I can ask him just to hold, because the Prime Minister has just spoken in the last few minutes about the commencement of the vaccination programme. This is what he had to say.
Well, it was very, very exciting just to talk to Lynn about the vaccine that she's just taken. She's 81. And really very moving to hear her say that she's doing it for Britain, and that's exactly right, because she's protecting herself, but she's also helping to protect the entire country. And across the whole of the UK this morning, that is happening in Scotland, Northern Ireland, and Wales, in England. People are having the vaccine for the first time, and it will gradually make a huge, huge difference. But I stress gradually, because we're not there yet. We haven't defeated this virus yet, and it's very important for people to understand. Sorry, it's quite hard to speak through this, but it's important for people to understand that the virus is, alas, still rising in some parts of the country. It's rising, for instance, in London. We've got it down hugely as a result of the measures we took in November. which have just come off. People made a huge effort. We can't afford to relax now. And so my message would be, it's amazing to see the vaccine come out. It's amazing to see this tremendous shot in the arm for the entire nation, but we can't afford to relax now.
Prime Minister speaking within the last few minutes. Let's go back to Coventry and bring into the conversation Professor Stephen Powis, who's National Medical Director of NHS England, joining me from that same hospital. Professor, on behalf of you and all your colleagues for the NHS, how did you feel when you saw that woman receiving her vaccination? Good morning.
Good morning, Nick. Yes, so at 6:30 this morning, when Margaret Keenan, Maggie, as she's known to friends, received that first vaccine, it was a truly emotional moment. Not just for me, but I think for all the staff who were there at that vaccination centre. It really felt like a historic moment, a turning point in this pandemic. Clearly, we've got a tough winter ahead. It's important that we stick to the social distancing measures that are in place, but there is light at the end of the tunnel, and this really felt like the beginning of the end.
Professor, light at the end of the tunnel, as you rightly say. Another analogy, of course, this is like a military operation. In reality, Professor, you've got the first person off the beaches of Dunkirk. How do you keep the flow going? Is that not the biggest challenge for you and your colleagues now?
Yes, this is a huge logistic challenge. It's the largest vaccine program the NHS has rolled out. We've been working for months preparing for this, recruiting additional staff, volunteers, making logistical plans, and that's meant that today we've been first in the world. Only a matter of days after the independent regulator gave us the green light, we stood up today in around 50 hospitals around the country. We're bringing in the over 80s, the high priority groups, care home staff, and in the next week or two we're going to roll that out to general practice so we get closer to communities and also directly into care homes. But don't underestimate, this is a huge challenge. Plans have been made. We are going to really get going before Christmas, but the vast majority of the vaccine program will come in the first months of next year when the manufacturing ramps up, and hopefully, of course, when other vaccines also become available.
Lastly, not wishing to rain for a moment on your parade, I spoke with Matt Hancock earlier in the show, and he, of course, lauded the success, but he sounded a note of warning, Professor. He's concerned that people will see this, hear this, read this, and they'll think, great, we've beaten COVID, we can go to the shops, we can go to the markets, we can go to parties, we can go to each other's houses. How are you going to keep, if you will, the temperature down to try and stop that explosion of excitement?
Yes, you're absolutely right.